Yes, good evening. This is Phil Dixon with another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. I am looking here. I have not been able to get my my computer to be right where I need it to be. So let me put something else here to raise it up. All right, I have to raise my computer up because I prefer it be just a little bit higher there. All right, okay, all right, okay. All right, this is a little bit better for me. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining. Hopefully, you can hear me okay. This is another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. I'm trying to see if I can get my hat right here. Get my hat here. Uh, Okay. Yeah, this is another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History here. So I'm trying to get my hat where I'm comfortable with it. No, I don't like that. Okay, that's about it. All right. So this today is our special edition here. This is the February 7th, 2026 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History, and where the conversation about baseball never stops. And you can learn more about the Negro Leagues right here in this one place than any place on the entire social media network. If you combine them all together, I'm just dropping information like you've never heard before and just having a good time at it. So, why don't we get busy? I do want to thank everybody who's joining. If you're joining, by all means, go ahead and let me know where you're joining from. Okay. So, we're going to go to our first fact here today, and it's going to be February the 7th, 1902. And Willie Bobo, St. Louis Stars first baseman, is born in Phoenix, Arizona, or it could have been Texas. And that's what I'm trying to figure out now. So, Willie Bobo. And I pulled my file. I have a file on many players that I've kept over the years. And it just so happens that in Bobo's file, I just happen to have, believe it or not, his death certificate. So in his death certificate, I didn't have all the information that I wanted. And years ago, I was going to put him in a baseball card set and never got around to actually doing that. But so I had pulled all his information, wrote the state, the vital statistics, and pulled it together because he passed away in 1931. He had gone down to Mexico, and I think he got some bad liquor or something like that, and ended up passing away. So that was a Willie Bobo. And so anyway, when you get his death certificate here, it says birthplace. It says Texas, but it says unknown. And then whoever provided this information said that his father's name was Calvin Bobo, and they didn't know where he came from, and they just said unknown, Texas. And then they mentioned his mother's name was Rachel Holston, Holston was her maiden name, and they didn't really say where she came from, right? So anyway, I'm just looking at his death certificate, and this is he passed away in actually in Los Angeles. So he had come back from across the border, and I remember I'm not sure which player I talked to, but one of his teammates and said that he thought that he had got hold to some bad liquor, and so on his death certificate, they put his cause of death is actually acute alcoholism. And that was Willie Bobo, born on this date. And if you go online and you look, I think if you go to Wikipedia, especially, you'll see that there's no mention of when he was born. All right. And it doesn't even give a year, if I'm correct. But hey, these are things you can learn when you listen to a person like me who's been handling these topics for many years. So, all right. So that's one of the things I just want to let you know. And once again, this is Saturday night here, and we're just trying to have some fun here and talk about some of these baseball facts. Okay. So we're going to go to February the 7th, 20. Let's see. This is 1925. Let me go ahead and put this down here. So this is 1925. Orville Singer of Zanesville, Ohio, had signed to play baseball in New York. And this was reported in the newspaper, the Zanesville Times Signal. And I had come across some information on Orville Singer in my 1931 book when he played for the Cleveland, I I think it was the Cleveland Cubs at that year. And so they played a number of games against the Homestead Grays and Pittsburgh Crawford. So I had done some work on him. So I kind of knew who he was when I started reviewing this. And I kind of dug a little deeper to see where he came from. But his name was Orville Singer, and he had moved to Cleveland, which is why he shows up in my 1931 book. And he formerly played for the M-A-R-K Grays, Greys, a few years back prior to that, and was an excellent second baseman. And the Zanesville Times-Signal informed the public that he was a speedy man on the base path and a constant menace to pitchers, and that he had been a slugger of the 300 hitter type. And so they expected big things out of Orville Singer from Zanesville, Ohio. And how about this, guys? Do you know anyone else from Zanesville, Ohio? And I'm going to give you a person who from Zanesville. And let me go in here. I'm going to edit something right quick here. Let me see if I can get this edited right quick. Gonna see if I can edit this real quick here. Let's see. The person I'm thinking about. If you ever see the story Branch Rickey had, and he talked about a ball player who was on the team with him at Ohio Wesleyan, and he couldn't actually get a room with the team. And Branch Rickey said he snuck him into his room. And later on, he talked about that being one of the reasons that he actually wanted to bring Jackie Robinson up to the Dodgers. And so, just making a long story short, that was Branch Rickey who mentioned that. And so, the guy, his name is Charles Thomas. He is also from Zanesville, Ohio. Charles Thomas. So I don't know if you knew about Charles Thomas. All right. So those two people from Zanesville, Ohio, I have presented there before. Actually, I spoke at the Zane Grey Museum. If you're a Western fan, maybe you have a book or two by Zane Grey. All right. And Zane Grey actually was a baseball player, and they have a little display in his museum with some baseball paraphernalia in there. All right. So let's keep it going. February 7, 1928. Alfonso Eugene Smith is born in Kirkwood, Missouri. That's a kind of a suburb out of St. Louis. And Smith was a former member of the Negro American League, actually Cleveland Buckeyes. I don't know if he actually played for the American Giants, but he definitely played for the Cleveland Buckeyes. And that was Quincy Troop's team. And of course, Quincy always recruited a lot of players out of St. Louis because that's where he was from, Quincy Troop. I don't know if you know much about Quincy Troop. And the thing about Al Smith, I think most people will remember, I think it was 1959. There's that famous picture of him up against the wall and somebody spilling a beer on him. And that's a very famous photograph. And perhaps you've seen that before. All right. So these are just some of the things that we're talking about tonight. All right. So let's go. Let's see. We're going to keep it going. So let's go to February the 7th, 1936. Now we're going to stay with St. Louis, and we're going to stay with Quincy Troop. All right. So Quincy Troop, and here we go. So weighing at 200 pounds. Now this is February the 7th, 1936, and fighting in the heavyweight division. Quincy Troop, not yet known as Quincy Troop, Trouppe. He was fighting under Troupe. He scored a knockout of Russell Thomas in the St. Louis Golden Gloves boxing tournament in St. Louis, Missouri. Yeah, so, hey, this guy was a great fighter as well. I had the pleasure of interviewing Quincy Troop on many occasions, talked to him a lot, and I have a really nice recording of him talking about his baseball career that I recorded many years ago on a cassette recorder. So I hope to digitize that, and maybe you guys would enjoy hearing that. So that was Quincy Troop, and of course he was the manager of the Cleveland Buckeyes. He led them to the pennant, and so that was 1945, and they just recently had a celebration recognizing the Cleveland Buckeyes, and I had the pleasure of going to Cleveland and at the at the invitation of an organization there, and I had a wonderful time, and I look forward to going back to Cleveland again. I was pleasantly surprised that Cleveland was such an outstanding city because I had never gone. Well, actually, I had gone there during a conducting a book tour when my book came out in 1992 with the Negro Baseball Leagues of Photographic History. And of course, at that time, I did an interview on the ball field of the old municipal stadium, what they used to call a mistake on the lake, a stadium that said about 80,000 people, and they couldn't sell season tickets because they couldn't get enough people to support baseball in that town. So actually, I did go there and interviewed at that park. All right. So I have some connections with Cleveland. And so let's keep it going. All right. So we're going to go to February 7th, 1963. And guys, if anyone's joining, let me know where you're joining from. All right. I always like that. And, we're growing in network here and we're just moving along and getting lots of subscribers and it's growing, right? I came on last June and began talking about the Negro Leagues in a conversation that never has ceased. And so this is a place you can come and you can learn some very unique things about the Negro Leagues and the players because I don't think there's a person alive who's interviewed more ball players than I did, right? Okay. So we're going to go on because and not only did I interview uh, Quincy True, but I interviewed the next person I'm going to talk about too. And this event happened on February 7th, 1963. And Frank Robinson signed a contract for $60,000, making him the highest paid player in Cincinnati Reds history. And the 27-year-old player, he was unhappy with his contract in 1962. And he said that year, 1962, would be his last. And he was pretty serious. But when presented with a contract for $60,000, he had a change of heart. So he was not getting paid for his ability, right? And over in New York, for instance, Mickey Mantle, the New York Yankees, was paid $100,000 in 1962. That was the same year Robinson had received $40,000, right, as a contract. Now, that year, 1962, Robinson hit 39 home runs and batted 342. Mantle, who was making, 60,000 more per year, batted 321 and hit 40 home runs, just one more than Robinson. So Robinson had a good argument as to why he should receive more money. And Cincinnati was not paying their players very well, and to get that 60,000 was quite a stretch. And so it made him the highest paid player in Cincinnati Reds history up to that point, $60,000. Now, Beta Pinson, who had hit 291 and homered 23 times in 1962, received a raise for $29,000, and he signed the same day, which was February 7th, 1963. And of course, Pinson would retire from baseball 250 hits short of 3,000. So that's the kind of money some of these guys were making. And so they're pretty unhappy, right? So anyway, that kind of gives you a little bit of idea of some of the things we talk about here. And I do want to close with a couple of things I'm not going to elaborate on very long. But I will say that February 7th, 1986, the Seattle Mariners signed 33-year-old Al Cowens, a free agent, and he appeared in 28 games, the last on June 8th, 1986, to round out his career. And of course, being from Kansas City, I saw him play a number of years with the Kansas City Royals. So that was Al Cowens. Okay, and so my last one is February 7th, 1989. The National League Houston Astros, signed Ron Sweet Washington as a free agent, where he ended his major league playing career on July 7th, 1989. In 2007, he reemerged as the manager of the Texas Rangers. So that kind of wraps up tonight some of the things that I wanted to talk about. And hopefully you guys will share this broadcast if we get it. I don't think I had a lot of live conversation tonight, but we keep this conversation going. So hopefully you learned something today. I know I'm always learning. And today also, I want to say I went to a memorial service for legendary photographer here in Kansas City named Jerry Lockett. If you were ever around any events in Kansas City related to the Negro Leagues Museum, and even further back, Jerry was a person. He came from the same community I did in Kansas City, Kansas, and his father was a photographer, so he followed in his father's footsteps. Actually, his father, I have a picture I took with my second grade class, and his father took that picture. Of course, his name was stamped on the back of it. I have that photograph. And of course, Jerry, once again, continued that family tradition. And years ago, when he was working for the Kansas City Call, and I worked for the Kansas City Call, also newspaper. So Jerry would go out and, in addition to photographing baseball in the football season, he would also cover the Chiefs and would record, take pictures there. Long story short, I remember one night, and this happened more than once. Uh, the gate where the players came out is the same place where the media came out, and we were young guys. We were pretty fit at that time. This is 30 years ago, and so we would come out of that same gate that the players would come out of after the game. And I remember Jerry and I walking out one night, and people would look over and say, "Who's that? Who's that?" You know, thinking we were a player. And then you would always hear somebody in the background say, "Oh, they're nobody." And so yeah, Jerry always had a running joke that I would see Jerry and say, "Hey, are you somebody yet?" Because I think I'm still a nobody. But anyway, this guy will go down in history is one of the legendary Kansas City photographers. I can think of some great ones, and I'll be happy to talk about them sometime. One of them is J.E. Miller. If you ever see that World Series print with Hilldale on one side and the Kansas City Monarchs on the other, this was taken in 1924, and Ruth Foster, J.L. Wilkinson, Alex Pompez, um, Spedden, the owner of the Baltimore Black Sox, they're all in the middle. Well, that photograph was taken by a Kansas City photographer named J.E. Miller. And of course, another famous Kansas City photographer who took some beautiful pictures of Satchel Paige was a guy by the name Fambro, Fambrough, and he took some wonderful photographs. His company was Fambro Photo, Photo, not PH. So he would do his Fambro Photo. And of course, I think one of the greatest photographers in the history of Kansas City was a guy by the name of Williams. Now, Williams, I never knew Williams' first name, but I've seen many portraits that he's taken over the years. Just an excellent, excellent photographer and someone that's not talked about. Right now, there's a guy who's been around a number of years, Rex Purefoy, and he's the photographer now. And these are some of the legendary photographers. And another guy that doesn't get much ink would be if you remember Slick Surratt. He appeared in the Ken Burns documentary on baseball. Uh, his son Al Surratt was a really well-known photographer around Kansas City, and actually Al, he was a photographer at my wedding, and my wife and I, we have pictures that Al Surratt took of us at our wedding, and we'll be married 42 years this year. So, and I don't know where Al Surratt is now. Occasionally, I'll get people ask me, "Have you seen Al Surratt?" So, haven't seen him. So, anyway, guys, that does it for me. I used to try to get out of here by 20 minutes. Hopefully, you've enjoyed some of this conversation and you've learned something. And if I can teach you something, I feel like I've accomplished something. So I want to thank you for joining. Feel free to share this broadcast. And if you like this kind of conversation, by all means, subscribe and we'll keep growing this network as large as we can get it. But it doesn't have to be large to be good. I would rather have people who enjoy baseball and enjoy this kind of history. So at least when I'm talking to people, I know that people are going to want to grow their knowledge. All right. So thank you guys. It's been my pleasure. And I look forward to coming back. Maybe if not tomorrow, tomorrow's Super Bowl, and I've got a speaking engagement, and so I have to travel a little bit. So I don't know if I'm going to get about broadcast tomorrow. So I may do a double header on Monday. All right. So thank you guys. It's always my pleasure to come and talk to you. So, guys, have a nice evening. And this is Phil Dixon with another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. And of course, this was the February 7th, 2026 edition of this ongoing conversation. Have a nice evening. Bye.